And please get it out to everyone you know. Call Rick Perry. Call the Attorney General Abbott, who is trying to countersue, and tell him it's time to point out that this is treason. This is economic warfare against our country. This is discrimination. This is waivers given to General Electric, who Obama has now brought in as the head, the former head of GE, as the head of his economic board that decides all these inside sweetheart deals. This is so off-the-chart corrupt. Again, Obama issues global warming rules in January, gives GE an exemption in February. Texas in showdown over U.S. carbon regulations. Regulations, not law. Here is the Houston Chronicle dealing with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality being pressured by the EPA to not allow the activation of a $3.2 billion coal-powered plant that's been built in Corpus Christi, and they're trying to keep it from being turned on. I've got another big stack of reports here where all over the United States, they are shutting down existing plants or not allowing new plants that were built to be turned on. And what's the response? Blackouts anger Dallas hospitals. They don't have power, but the stupid Super Bowl stadium does. Again, why was Cowboy Stadium exempt from blackouts? CBS News. Here's AFP. Mexico supplies electricity to wintry Texas because they don't have the rules to follow. They're allowed to have power plants. So now they supply us, where the globalists have sweetheart deals, where only select companies are allowed to go down and set up plants in Mexico. Because when you have a tyranny in place, it knows how to work with the insiders. Here's another one. Obama, EPA blocks South Dakota coal power plant. Here's another one. Governor Sebelius banned new coal plants in Kansas. Goes on and on. Georgia judge blocks coal plant on global warming grounds. And they're having power outages and blackouts all over the country. Texas agency grants power plant permit over EPA objections. So the feds come in and just shut it down. They are shutting off our power. The TSA is now seizing infrastructure, travel, the roads. The federal government's setting up threat fusion centers, federalizing local police, seizing local governments. The feds are coming into the state of Texas and saying, we don't care if you follow the original federal law. We got a new regulation for you. Cutting how much power the plants can produce, not letting new plants open. This is an act of war against the United States. And it's outrageous. And it dovetails with something very, very important. Back in 2005, we wrote the article, Paul Watson and Alex Jones, The Myth of Peak Oil. The Myth of Peak Oil. The Myth of Peak Oil. And it gives, you can click through and read articles and documents that the Associated Press got in lawsuits on 2005, 2006 meetings with the big five oil companies meeting now 15, 16 years ago, to quietly buy up oil refineries owned by smaller companies and shut them down so there'd be an artificial bottleneck. We're awash in oil, natural gas, and coal. They have to artificially lobby for regulations that shut down their competition. And then they claim that a bunch of ragtag hippies did this. They had nothing to do with it. That's coming up because this takeover, this planned economy is for the insiders, and it's going to destroy our middle class and our free market civilization and our standard of living. I spent the last 30 minutes of the last hour getting into this new report that just went up on Infowars.com. Obama agenda to bankrupt power plants triggers blackouts. And that's exactly what has happened, and that's exactly what Obama says he wants to do. So I'm going to basically go over the other areas of this I haven't gotten to yet, recap the facts, and call on you, the listeners, to give me ideas, or I've got ideas. What do we do politically? What do we do when we're under siege, when our power's being cut off and everything's being moved to Mexico and China? They've built in the last decade a string of power plants along the U.S. Mexico border, predominantly in Texas. They know Texas supplies 5 other states who are now buried in snow. That's why Texas is running out of power, because we're supplying the other states, which is fine. It creates jobs here, gives people power elsewhere. The lignite coal they mine's right here in Texas, one reason they have so many plants here. And This is all a program to deindustrialize the country. And Obama has said this. That's what's so incredible about how they admit they want a post-industrial world. Now, Paul Watson and I did the research and put this article together today. And he's going to be even adding more information because we're moving quick on this story as the broadcast unfolds. But hospitals, police stations all over the state and other states, but predominantly in Texas, didn't have power yesterday and part of today. And now another giant wave of this blizzard that's covered more than 40% of the country is pushing down across the Midwest into the east as we speak, hitting much of the northern part of the country now, coming south, hitting where I live in central Texas about 5 p.m. tonight. And I've got to worry about even getting to work tomorrow. And when we talk about just the corruption of government, a decade ago, they had a snowstorm and the power went off and the traffic lights went out. They'd have cops at key intersections coming to work on major roads that happen to have red lights on them, like 360 yesterday. It took me 45 minutes instead of 20. And there were no police to be seen. They're normally there writing tickets. I normally see about 9 to 10 police cars or motorcycles writing tickets on my drive to work. Saw nothing. And the lights were almost completely out, and there were huge traffic jams backed up on them. And I was talking to one of my IT guys. He said yesterday, driving in, he saw on William Cannon no lights on, cars backed up for miles, and no police directing traffic because the traffic lights were out. But then he saw cops writing tickets with radar guns up William Cannon towards the middle school that's there. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. This is globalism. They cut the power off because they haven't built enough power plants, or they've restricted what they can put out. They won't have cops out directing traffic as they're supposed to. They got them revenue generating. And what have they announced all over the country with 60% layoffs, 35%, 40%? You saw the police chief last year in Oakland say, we're not going to respond to all these dozens of crimes. I think it was 40-something crimes, including armed robbery, you name it. We're going to do revenue generating. And what do these other sheriffs people I see announce? They go, yeah, we're laying off 60% of our sheriff's deputies. We'll no longer respond to crime. We're just going to revenue generate. So this is a completely predatory, out-of-control government, and we're turning into a third-world nation. That's why third-world nations can't run or operate, because their governments steal everything as a tool to make society break down, so you're so poor you don't have 2 pennies to rub together to ever become independent and resist them. We'll be right back with key intel on this. Straight ahead, stay with us. I have spent much of the last 30 minutes, the last hour, getting into rolling blackouts all over the country, hospitals, police stations without power in Dallas-Fort Worth area yesterday and today. They're complaining, saying, why has our power been turned off to conserve energy and supply it to 5 other surrounding states? We're the biggest energy producer in the country here in Texas, per capita for land space in the world. Why is this happening? Why is Obama blocking new power plants, at least 3 of them in Texas, including one they've almost completed in Corpus Christi, an over $3 billion facility? Why have they allowed Mexico to build all these power plants with U.S. and globalist companies, and then now they're supplying Texas? It's all part of a plan to shut down our industries. And it's a stated plan by the globalists for a post-industrial world. That's what China is all about. That's what the tariffs against our goods are about. That's what their low currency is about, is making it where we can't compete. And then globalist insiders who have sweetheart deals with the communist Chinese, the Mexicans, and others, they get to set up power plants and things in factories that no one can compete with. And then the very same corporate interests lobby our government and other Western governments to put in laws shutting down their competition. And again, it's just like Obama giving out hundreds and hundreds, I know it's over 500 waivers and counting, to McDonald's and others to not make them buy health insurance for their employees, but everybody else has to. And don't forget, Obama put out an order, not a law. He doesn't have a law to be doing all this, to be shutting down Texas power plants and not letting them build new ones and restricting the output of other power plants or putting federal taxes on them. That's what the Kyoto Protocol does. He's just doing it. But here's the headline. Obama issues global warming rules in January, gives General Electric, who the head of his economic council is the former head of GE, an exemption. They get an exemption from the new regulations, not